Let's touch on this first point. I read the forms, I read the onboarding forms, I actually read them. And there'll be things in there like, and I love this because it's ambitious, but it'll be like, I want to make 100 grand a month and I want to work 2 hours a day, which this is okay. I'm okay with that. That's fine. But you got to realize that is very, very abnormal. Okay. And you're committing to building something that 0.00001% of the universe will ever accomplish. Okay. Which is great. I'm all about it. Be ambitious, F the system, all about it. But what you got to realize is this: if you want that reward with that much leverage, that much efficiency, that much simplicity, you can't just say it. You can't even just decide that that's what you want. There's going to be a serious, and I pardon my language for the people that don't like swearing, there is going to be a serious fucking hold the line phase while that takes shape. You are not going to blink and it just appears. That is not the way the world works. I wish it did, but if it did, inflation would be 8 million% and it'd be worse than it already is because everyone would be making 100 grand a month. And the world may be heading to that place where that's how much you need to make to live because it's getting expensive, right? You have to realize that there is going to be a hold the line phase. And this is why I don't talk about strict timelines in my marketing too much. We can talk about timelines to build stuff, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you that you're going to get to 50 grand a month in 3 months. I'm just not going to do it because there's too many variables. I don't know you. I don't know necessarily the intricate workings of your market. I don't know what's happening in the macro elements, like the macroeconomic factors of your market. It's too hard to predict. But what I can tell you, and if you go reread the offer doc, this will make more sense now. What I can tell you is if you put the pieces in place and you focus on the inputs, you can get there in time. But I just don't know how long that timeline is. And this is where you've got to be committed to the vision. And you've got to be prepared to hold the line while it takes shape. And it's easy to say, but what I see a lot of people do is they go, yeah, no, I really want this. I'm sick of XYZ. But then they go a week without signing a client, or they go 2 weeks without signing a client. And they're like, oh, can't handle that. And they jump back in and unwind everything. They launch a new offer. They change everything. If you want the reward of the leverage, the efficiency, the simplicity, you've got to be prepared to hold the line and commit to making those limitations, those constraints, those boundaries your reality. Does that make sense? You're going to get challenged. The universe will challenge you. People will challenge you. I get messages all the time. Hey, can we get on a call? Nope. Unless the relationship is established and it makes sense. Like the Jen about the partnership thing I was talking about before. I could get on that call and I could sell the shit out of a 15 grand offer in 15 minutes. Easily. But then all this would be for nothing. And so you've got to value the vision for it above the immediate transaction. And because, and this is why this is a mindset topic. If I spend all day in my content talking about how this is how I do things and I place a really high value on my time and blah 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 blah. But then the second someone messages me, they're like, "Hey bro, can we get on a call?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, sure, 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 sure." All of a sudden I'm full of shit, which doesn't help externally, and it sure as hell doesn't help internally because what happens? The self-trust bank account gets a big old negative on it because I'm trying to represent and project this certain identity and philosophy and way of living, but then I don't live in accordance with it. because I'm not trusting myself enough that I'll hold the line on the model and make it work. And so I'm jumping in. Now, that's different from if you make a strategic decision to dual track two businesses at the same time. Right. And I've spoken about this with some of you in your onboardings where you've got a clear flow that's working. And I'm not going to tell you to go and blow that up. Let's dual track it. But for the folks who are building from the ground up or who are saying, no, I'm done with that way of doing things and this is the way that I'm doing it now, if you're making that decision and making that commitment, you've got to be prepared to hold the line on building it. Okay. And just chime in at any point. I'm happy to confirm anything, argue about anything, whatever. Many people never get there because their identity is tied to the grind. They're addicted to jumping back in and doing things manually to feel busy or get instant feedback. They sabotage the system before it has a chance to work. When you, this comes up in a few different situations. So when you pivot from a more manual way of operating, and I experienced this when I first made the shift from calls to no calls. I've experienced it in a big way over the last 6 months, 9 months with the changes that I've been making. When you make a decision to adopt more leverage, there's this really bizarre season that happens, or phase, or whatever language you want to use, where you feel like you're not working as hard as you could be. And you feel like you're almost being a little bit lazy because we become so ingrained and associated with, if I do this thing now, I'll get a response, I'll get feedback, I'll get confirmation of some kind, right? If I send this follow up message, if I jump on this sales call, if I, you know, even down to the content side of things, like we get so used to, if I make this post, it's going to get likes and that makes me feel good, right? We're used to that little feedback loop. But when you're building systems, it takes time for that, for the throughput to create the feedback loop. And so there's going to be this season where you feel like, shit, am I being lazy? Or like it's weirdly quiet. And that doesn't mean that it's not working. It just means that the system hasn't fully kind of activated yet. And it's in the throes of that where you either jump in and break things because you cannot handle, and I'm not saying this to be an ass, but this is just reality for all of us. You cannot handle the shift in identity from I need to feel busy to feel good about myself to I can sit back, I can build this, I can do it calmly. And then people sabotage it and they go back to the old way of doing things because it feels nicer to get the immediate feedback, the likes, the replies, the no's. It's something. Is this hitting? You guys get what I'm saying? Okay. So you're all going to go through that. You're going to go through it. And you're going to go through it multiple times. Like I've literally just gone through it over the last 6 months again. And I was like, shit, this feels familiar. I've been here before. Because I could jump into the DMs all day and sell stuff. I've done it for years. But with my new vision, if I do that, I'm corrupting the system because it's not giving me a true indication. And this is for me, right? Like you guys are going to be in different situations. I'm just telling you from my perspective. But if I jump in and corrupt the system and then I'm like, hey, yeah, this thing's amazing, it's rolling, but it's all still fully dependent on me. It's not a true indication, right? So you got whatever system it is that you're building, you've got to give it the time to get the throughput to live and breathe on its own accord. Okay. The more you can stretch out your time horizons, the more effectively you will operate within this model. And I mean, that's really any model. But when you're focusing on quarters and years as opposed to days, weeks, and months, You're less likely to make short term moves from a position of fear. You're less likely to try and pressure people or twist them into buying prematurely, which creates delivery challenges. And you really avoid falling into this kind of scarcity mindset. It comes back to what I was talking before about making it a matter of when and not if. And the more you can extend the time horizons, the easier that shift becomes. Because if I said to you, you've got a week to go make $1 million, right? I put this arbitrary constraint of time on it. You're going to have to do certain things in order to make that happen. There's if you're building from the ground up, there's not that many legal ways you can make $1 million in a week, right? And so you start making not so great decisions, and then you end up with Greg, right? It's an extreme example, but you get my point. Whereas if I said to you, you've got 3 years, go make your $1 million. We didn't fundamentally change the goal of what we're trying to achieve. We just stretched out the time horizon. And so you think about the decisions that you now make, knowing that the time variable changed. The plan that you implement and the way that you approach each day is completely different. And so, what people are doing online, for whatever reason, Instagram, Rolexes, Lambos, whatever, marketing, they're putting arbitrary time frames in place that's causing them to do really dumb shit. Because for whatever reason in their own mind, they've told themselves that they have to get to this number that 9 times out of 10 they don't need in 72 hours for no reason at all. And it achieves the exact inverse of what they're trying to accomplish. Because of the arbitrary, highly constrained timeline, they jump around, they're really erratic. Their magnetism from a branding perspective is shot to pieces because they come across as needy as F. And it achieves the exact inverse of what they're actually wanting to do. So the more that you can stretch out your time horizons, the easier your goals are to achieve. Because you're operating from this place of join now, join tomorrow, you know, okay, up to you. You do you, boo. Very different from like, yeah, but like, why can't you join today? Aren't you serious? Don't you love your family? Weird. Like, come on. Weird. And so this is the mindset challenge.